where you just like give them a quarter and they would just like, feed you some like random fortune cookie quote. Except that my fortune cookie quotes are pretty hopefully badass. I have been summoned. Gaston, you've been summoned. Jenny, question. How can you use your human design to get over the flu? Oh, and people, you better start tapping and show Marco some love. Well, thank you. Um, okay, so let's talk about using human design and flu or health symptoms. Because, when a lot of the times when something like the flu happens, it can very easily be perceived as a bad thing, right? Similar to when the not self in your body graph will show up. Like if you're a projector and you are, not waiting for an invitation, you will experience bitterness as a form of like, hey, you need to work on something, right? So, um, when it comes to flus and sicknesses and illnesses, one of the things that you want to be grateful for, first off, is that your immune system is working, because your immune system is the thing that like takes you out. Like if you could think, if you didn't have your immune system, infections, viruses and stuff like that, they wouldn't really inhibit you that much. And it's because your immune system wouldn't be turning on to fight the the um the pathogens or the virus or whatever it is that's foreign in your body. And so one of the things that I try to do my best when I'm sick, which is not often, but it does happen, is really like give myself, and I notice personally I will struggle with like being productive, especially being the man. Like I'm afraid of being sick because um if I can't make content, if I can't go to work, if I can't do those things, then my family might suffer and my family might run out of money and starve. So for me and for a lot of people, I feel like that sickness is definitely like a challenge to for us to really deepen into like why we're here, because while it's important to make money and provide, health is like the most important thing. And so, not to say that you're sick because you're not paying attention to your health, but one of the things that sickness can do is really help us to calibrate our health, the things that we do for health. One of the reasons why I believe people get sick a lot is because they're not prioritizing their inner authority. This is one of the main things. Like if someone has a lots of emotional energy, but they're not being with those emotions or confronting those emotions, um, that's something that is how you say, definitely something to look at. Can you use human design for more serious illness like rare, chronic, or genetic ones? So one of the things that I like to do, is kind of look for the root causes of illnesses, but I'm not a scientist, so I'm not gonna like run tests and not gonna do that kind of stuff. Um, what I'm gonna do is really kind of like probe the body language, probe the stories that you have about yourself. Because, for instance, one of the things that could happen, for instance, if like someone has like a brain tumor, one of the things that I might be curious about is like what head sample, and they have an undefined head, like what head sample, what thought or what form of inspiration are you sourcing from so much that it has now manifested into cancer? And I'm not like this is the only way and you don't need medication and all that kind of stuff, but to me it's really helpful to at least be considerate of like this stuff. um this stuff has like an origin point, just like we do. There's like an energetic origin point, and if we can connect with that energetic origin point, now we have a direction that we know at least where we're heading in. Jenny says you don't get sick very often either. It's I would say I get sick maybe once every other year or once every 3 years. But it's like bad sick. And you know I feel like I beat a handful of sicknesses in that time as well that are like smaller sicknesses, but naturally it's like, so you say it's usually when I get going so fast I don't slow down. Makes sense. So this is one of the things about human design I like is like, if you think about a car, you can push a car well past its limit, but then it deteriorates the body of the car. And it's funny because a lot of people will, I definitely used to be someone that would judge, like, why do you care about your car so much? Why do you care about your car so much? And it's, for them, it's like the function of the car. Naturally, they can get to places where they need to go, etc. Um, and then I didn't relate it to the body. Like, some people care more about their car than their body. And in my opinion, if anything is in your care about it. Like, take good care of it. And yeah, that's what kicked me in my rear end. Well, luckily for you, right? You've learned this lesson enough, and just like really slow down and take care of yourself. And what's interesting too, as well, especially for I mean, for all types of beings, because energy will fluctuate. Energy will fluctuate a lot. Celia sent a PM. I want to learn more in my spiritual journey. Wonderful. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. If you have any questions that you feel inspired to ask here, feel free to ask them. Ever since I got my own car and got off public transportation, I've not been sick. Very interesting. So, again, we're looking at the dynamics of sometimes sickness is just the manifestation of like other people's energy in your field. It's similar, like if you have a diesel engine and you put gasoline in it, it will destroy the diesel engine. Um, us human beings, we're designed to manifest the things that we're designed to manifest. As a guitar, the guitar is designed to manifest the sounds of a guitar. And it's funny because I've actually experimented with having guitars that can do things like plug into MIDI instruments and play different instruments. And it's not that it's not cool, but it made me not love the guitar as much. And then I got a beautiful classical guitar, and I love the guitar so much more. So anyway, what advice can you give to a projector in a very competitive work environment since we have to wait? These are the kind of questions I like. These are the kind of questions I like. Okay, so as a projector, being in a competitive work environment, one of the things that I think you are being given an opportunity to look at, number one, is your own sense of competition, because it's not wrong for a projector to be competitive. You just have to be really mindful about where you're sourcing that competition from. For instance, if you're sourcing the competition from a desire to compete with the other people, and let's say you don't have a defined heart, or let's say you do have a defined heart and you have that, but you don't have the sacral, you don't have the energy to sustain it, right? You have to find a different way to source that level of competition, in the sense that it's like, what you want to be able to do is figure out, number one, how can you recognize the winners and who's putting in great effort? Like, how can you be like, how you say, the like uh in a way, like a competitor and a coach, or less of a coach unless someone invites you, but more of like a I don't know, potential investor, or for whatever reason, I don't want to say fan, but like a fan, like congratulating people and being very like, how you say, supportive. But really, what it is you're just sourcing your competition from recognition. The more that you're able to recognize other people in their wins, in their efforts, in the metrics that make sense, what's going to happen for you is you're going to start to become more clear about the systems of competition. What are people doing that they're winning about with? What are they not doing that's causing them to win? Um, just being like very curious and absorbative in that sense. um because, and then also looking for what is the invitation, like who's inviting you to be competitive. And it might be someone that's not even in the competitive space, right? Like, it might be your child that's inviting you to be a competitor in this space, so that you can like make money and provide for the family. So those are some thoughts. Again, as a projector, what you really want to do is avoid trying to do things like everybody else. Like I was mentioning, recognize them so that you don't fall into doing the same thing as they do. Find kind of like the way that works better for you, and find sources of energy for yourself that are sustaining, right? And that are not necessarily just out of the pure satisfaction of doing it or being on top or winning, but like connecting them to deeper whys. Um, yeah, that would be my advice. Let's see. If I can find a job for introverts, it would be good. Hate collaboration, work alone. Yeah, I would say, man, there's plenty of jobs like that, but also if you live in if you have the ability to, how do I say this? If you've got a smartphone, you just have to be clever enough to figure out how to create that for yourself. Like when it comes to employment and working for other people, there are a number of really great employers out there, but they're grossly outnumbered by how many lame, unconscious, not caring employers. People that don't really care about your work environment or your work experience. And so, if you have a smartphone, you can start a business. And if you need someone to invite you to start a business, I would say s- start a business. And like, start a social media business, start selling something, start like figure out a skill because there's plenty of things that you can do where you aren't alone and you can still make money and work. Now, when it comes to like feeling people and being overwhelmed by the feeling of people, it's not that other people are annoying or other people have intrusive energies. Sometimes they do. I'm not saying that. But in terms of like, if you want to get better, the reality that you have to step into is it's not the stimulus that's too strong, it's me that can't tolerate it. It's not that the weight is too heavy, I'm not strong enough to lift it, right? Because when you approach it with this mentality, then you have the ability to get stronger and lift the weight. Or you have the ability to create tolerance for annoying people, which I get you, friend. I'm a reflector. I have all open centers. I feel people a lot. The difference between you and me is that I spend time working on my senses. I spend time creating tolerance in my body. I spend time developing this kind of stuff. So, can you accumulate energy somehow? Because I am over the quick depletion. So, one of the things about it is like watching if you start to watch yourself with people, you'll realize that one of the reasons you get exhausted is because you're resisting them, right? Like you're trying, like you want to energetically change them or you want to physically stop them from doing what they're doing. That's one of the reasons why you might become drained and exhausted. Again, the quick depletion. Hey, Riley. The quick depletion as well is also like, again, it's a marker from your body. So one of the things is when you're depleted, instead of attempting to finish the date, like give yourself 5, 10, like break the energy up, go outside, touch some grass, right? Go drink a bunch of water. One of the reasons why our energy might become depleted is because there's not oil in the tank, there's not fuel in the chamber, there's not you know any kind of like the body isn't being taken care of. So again, if you have an energy problem, one of the main areas to look is like physical health and wellness. Like when you wake up in the morning, first thing you should be doing is getting like right into your body, going outside. Like every day I'll wake up, I'll go outside, I'll pee, I'll literally just jump up and down like 15 or 20 times, and then I'll sit down and meditate. And then I'm like in my body. And not to say that it's like, oh, anyone can do this and like fix their cancer, but it's just one of those things that it's like you do basic stuff when you're younger to consolidate your strength rather than trying to like, I don't know, do all these fancy things or learn all these like show offy skills. Like you just consolidate your strength when you're younger and it creates a more sustained life. So, what advice would you give to an emotional generator that wants to work full time online from scratch? Ooh, I would say go for it. I would say really, you know, be patient with what what you're actually bringing to the table, like your final product, or you a year and a half from now should be able to look back at the work that you're putting online and be like, ew. This way I see it is like, if you can't look back, like I will look back at some of my content from a year ago and I'll be like, ew. TikTok even does this things where it reminds me, it's like, hey, there's this post if you wanted to repost it, and I'll watch it and I'll be like, nope, ew, that's not what I want to do. Um, ew. And it's great because for me, I'm recognizing that as like the growth that's happening. And especially with emotional authority, it's like, yes, be patient. Yes, take your time. Yes, find your sense of clarity. But then also, it's like there's no escaping the if you want to work full time online, then that's something that you have to show up to pretty often, pretty consistently. And you can be clever about it too, you know? Like I sometimes will record videos on TikTok and then save them for a rainy day when I don't feel like recording videos. So how does manifesting generators manifest things? The only S wants to know. Um, I'll cringe and delete it and I'll start all over again and again, LOL. So this is what I'm saying is like best thing you can do, JJ, is start, I would say start posting. Start posting because it's very safe for you to record, delete, record, delete, record, delete. It's very safe. You don't have to deal with the reality of like, hey, I actually need to get better. So if you record and post, right? As long as you're not like in some like wild emotional way of saying controversial things, because you can do like what do they say? Takes years to build a reputation and seconds to destroy it. Yeah. Yeah. Manifesting generators manifest things the same way everyone else does through the throat, primarily through the generator strategy of responding to things and then infusing your sacral energy with whatever manifested channel that you have and manifesting. Like again, the manifesting generator is not like a hybrid of the generator and the manifesting generator or the generator and a manifester. A manifesting generator is a generator with a manifesting channel. And so this means that a lot of the things that it's generating are going to become manifested, not necessarily in the way of like needing to inform others, although sometimes that will be the case, but they're just going to be like more quickly manifested on your own. Do you think our aura can penetrate even through communication? I can totally feel people's energy through the screen. I can totally feel it. And it's because for a lot of reasons. Number one, visual cues, microfacial expressions, all of that stuff is tied to somebody's energy. So you can read it. Now, whether it's actually penetrating, it's debatable, you know? Noma, I can't really feel your energy. Like when I get on TikTok, it's kind of like, or when I get on live, like if I'm not with one other person or two other people, it can be kind of challenging to feel people's energy, at least specifically. Like the live right now feels like a nice like soup. Like if I were to jump into like a lazy river with a bunch of like cool people and I was just like floating along having conversations with one and then going on to another. That's kind of what it feels like for me. Which is similar to like being at a party or something. But everyone here has got some pretty good energy. I will say that. Good. I hope you can feel my love for this awesome information you shared. Jenny, I totally feel it. Omeek, so if you want your body graph, all you have to do is go to my website. It's reikimarco.com and you just plug in your birth information and it'll pop you one out. Um, where are you from? I'm from San Diego originally, and then I moved out here to Maui, where I live with now, to help my partner give birth and raise our child. Got you, Omnic. So with the body graph as well is like a word of warning to anybody is like there's a lot of information in the body graph, and don't be not that don't be overwhelmed, but don't be discouraged if you're overwhelmed. It's very, I think, very natural for someone to be overwhelmed by how much information is in a body graph. Start the two places you start are strategy and authority. You spend a month implementing those things, practicing them, asking yourself at every decision point, did I consider my strategy and authority? Like audit yourself. And that's the best place to start. Everything else will start to fall into place if you just continue to like come onto my lives or watch videos that I share. It's, reverse osmosis exposure just by standing next to someone speaking the language, knowing what you know, you'll eventually start to pick up on it. Can you sharpen a specific aspect of your aura? Very interesting. Rudy, you got some solid questions, my friend. Thanks for joining the live. So, I believe that aura dynamics is definitely something like you can definitely, I wouldn't call it sharpen, I would say it would be more like more refined. I can sharpen, I guess, my command of the aura or my awareness of the aura. And it's like, so it's two parts. Number one is just noticing what the aura is naturally doing. Because it's kind of like the heartbeat. Like I can't tell the heart beat faster, but I can run and make it beat faster. Right. So one of the things that you can do to sharpen your aura is, for instance, if you're somebody that like loses energy a lot, one of the things that I do is called deep pressure therapy, where I'll get like 130 pounds or 140 pounds, get like plates, and I'll lay down and I'll stack them on my chest. And it seems unrelated, but what I'll do is I'll basically resist being crushed by all this weight. And for me, as a reflector, what I'm doing is I'm envisioning my aura is sealing up, like my aura is getting tighter and tighter and tighter and pressing against this weight that's on my chest. And that's how I practice sealing my aura. Now, when it comes to relaxing my aura, quite the opposite is true. I will lay with nothing on me and try to, as best as I can, consciously relax. So, with everything, and everything is yin and yang, right? So, you either make life harder for yourself um, in a controlled environment, or you make life easier for yourself in a controlled environment. That's the open close, right? So, for instance, as a projector, one of the ways that that kind of deep pressure therapy could help would be with being able to tolerate more stimulus, more in the external world. So essentially, either your aura would be absorbing things less, or you would be able to absorb more, right? I seal up my aura with a visualization like white light or shield around me when I meditate. Great. Visualizations are cool. I like to pair them with actual physical things. So one of my favorite ones is it's called a reverse belly breath. So normally when we breathe, our belly goes out and then we exhale and the belly goes in. So with this breath, if anyone wants to like seal up or protect their aura, you just do the opposite. So when you breathe in, your belly goes in. And then when you exhale, your belly goes out. Inhale in the belly, exhale, push the belly out. That for me, like, and it feels kind of unnatural, right? Um, but it's one of those things that like really helps me ground in and seal. This is a good question, Lana. Does human design help dealing with people that trigger you? 100%. Human design is one of the um the few systems where I'm like actually able to enjoy when someone triggers me, because it's like, for instance, when someone triggers you, one of the things that you got to look at is in your undefined centers, are you like comparing yourself to them in any way, right? Another area that you might want to look at is if someone is right, I don't necessarily like the word trigger. I like activate, because it's more, you can take more accountability for an activation. It's like, oh dude, that person, they got me so worked up, versus that person triggered me, right? It's a very small shift, but it's a difference between like working through it on a victim mentality and working through it on a self-improvement or more loving capacity. So yeah, triggered is out. Triggered is like super 2012. I'm activated, I'm worked up. Accountability, yeah. Best way for a generator to stay grounded, I mean, the best way for any human being to stay grounded is to like touch the earth. As weird as it sounds, like touch the earth, make sure you're eating food that your sacral agrees with. Um, honor your energy. Like the way to stay grounded is just to like not ask your body to do things that are detrimental for the body. Is the way it is. Wow, guys, we're at 11,000 likes up here. This is amazing. Thank you guys for 11,000 likes. Thank you for everyone that's been sharing the live. If you guys are enjoying this, and you're able to, please tap the screen, share the live with some people if you can. The more this number goes up, the more TikTok is going to higher rank us and share us with more people. My dream naturally is to share human design with as many people as I possibly can, because I just think this stuff is so cool and so helpful, and it's worth it. So, DM Lacey, definitely what you eat will help so much. What's your determination? Yep, my website will tell you your determination, and they're all like pretty. A lot of the things is yet another thing I love about human design is that when it says cold thirst, it means drink cold things, or hot thirst, it means drink hot things. High sound, eat in environments where there's high sound. Low sound, eat in an environment where there's low sound. Um, Stuff like that. So my aura is really dense and absorb a lot. I think I really influence others. Is it looking at is like, hey, let's experiment and see if this is now, because there are definitely people whose configurations and auras are designed in a way that are going to activate a lot of people and not in a way that they would like, or people that are more influential than other people. There's definitely people with those charts. Without looking at the nuances of it, I can't really tell, but I can say that it is very possible for, like, with this channel, this person's very individual. If you have that channel right there, super individual, individual, individual energy. So there's certain channels that are definitely going to give off the more of the individual vibe and have more influence over other people. Now, whether or not that is good or bad doesn't really matter. What really matters is like the impact of that. So if your influence is, one that people are welcoming in and they're inviting, great, sweet. If it's something that they're like, whoa, 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 we don't like this, and you're feeling really bitter about it, again, it might not be the best thing to do, or you might want to find some people that actually appreciate you. Can you explain what it means by manifesting generators manifest through responding new to this? Totally. So this is a response. Mm, mm. That's a response. Manifesting through response means be patient enough and observant enough that you're going to, instead of initiating and trying to make things happen, um, you're going to find things to respond to. You're going to find things where your gut and that, like, yummy, that feeling is alive. That's where the energy to do the thing comes from. Like if someone offers you a job and your gut goes, and then they tell you, oh, you'll be making $20,000, a month. And your gut is like, but your mind is like, damn, $20,000 a month. That's a really good deal. But your gut is like, don't fucking do it. That's my belief, at least. Don't do it, because what you're saying there is the amount of money that you're going to make is more important than you actually having energy to do the thing, which you might be able to do it for a couple years or 10 years or your entire life, but I guarantee you're not going to be satisfied doing it. Still trying to figure better grounding techniques for my sacral. I do dance. Dance is great. Singing is great as well. Yeah, all of this is Riley's got some good advice for sure. Time alone in your aura for sure. Yeah. Um, Rudy, for instance, my cravings are the most purchase day I choose not to indulge at work. I wonder. My cravings are the most purchase the day I choose not to indulge at work. I wonder. Oh, so there is the reality of a lot of the food that we eat and a lot of our lifestyle has created essentially like homes for parasites and all kinds of things in our body that are literally hijacking our neural receptors and causing us to like go get shitty junk food at like 2 in the morning. So one of the things you might want to consider is like a really good parasite cleanse. The thing about parasite cleanse is it's very intense, very uncomfortable, and you have to do it right, because if you don't do it right, you just kind of like aggravate the parasites and they just like go deeper. And not to like scare people, but one of the reasons why people will have these like weird cravings for things is literally just because there's a worm living inside you that's like making you think that you're starving. And so it's like basically telling you to go get food for it. Sorry. Anyway, how should projectors deal with canceled invitations? Like someone invited you to something and then they canceled it? I mean, I think projectors, honestly, I think projectors, y'all have the potential to be like the coolest, most aloof people. Like one of the things I would do if I was a projector and someone canceled one of their invitations for me is I would be like, okay, how can I be stoked that this person canceled the invitation? Because what did I want? What do I actually want to do with my time and energy? Like you can see it as a gift. But the parasites, sugar cravings too, definitely. Um, have I heard the audio? I haven't heard the audio, but best cleanses by Crystal Trip. I gave it. It's called Disease Solution. She's my friend. I gave it to all my kids. Interesting. Yeah, if anyone wants to do a parasite cleanse, um, I don't have any. I do have a recommendation. I don't know what it's called. It's very underground. Um, but yeah, you're welcome, bananas. Yeah, my partner's a projector, and I see her do that a lot, where she's like disappointed that there's a invitation that got canceled, but then also she's like excited because now she doesn't have to do anything. So yeah, I was thinking like energetic invitations where it seems like they want to be friends. Yeah, Riley, send me the audio, but then they seem like they don't later. Ah, I see. So this is one thing too, as well, is like it's good to track the energetic invitations, but until someone says it out loud and you can like hear them say it and then they back it up with action. Again, this is the difference between responding to something and having a having an invitation to something. Because you might like see a party and be like, ooh, that's not an invitation. If someone comes out and says like, "Hey, you look really cool. Come in the party." Kind of a lame invitation, but yeah, that's an invitation. Or someone opens the door and they leave it open. Maybe that's an invitation, but like look for things in the physical world because energetic invitations are tricky. Because especially with the way that we're conditioned, we might view like the seedling of an invitation as an invitation, which is the same as like, you look at a flower and you pick it and you try and eat it and you realize, oh, it's not a fruit yet. It's kind of a similar thing. So I have a body graph, but I don't know what determination means. So it should on my website, if you look, it'll tell you what determination you are. It'll literally just say determination and then have a thing under it. So what's the link between astrology and human design? How do they connect? So human design is really what it does is it adopts the s- because it's not based on the constellations, but what it adopts is looking at the position of the planetary bodies and what parts of the sky they're in. Now, when human in astrology, they use 12 zodiacs. They use the constellations. And some people use 13 zodiac constellations. Some people use sidereal calculations. Human design actually doesn't do any of that. Human design is literally just looking at what part of the sky is the moon in, what part of the sky is Mercury in, what part of the sky is Venus in, and then what neutrino stream is that activating? Like based off of the geometries, what stream of neutrinos, which for this person it was 34. So the sky is divided up instead of 12 zodiacs, it's divided up into 64 hexagrams, which is what you're working with the hexagrams, and you see it on the backs of turtle shells, you see it all in nature everywhere. But there's this sequence, 64 thing long sequence of um these again patterns that show up in reality. And we look at our genetic code and there's 64 of these freaking codons that make up our entire genetic sequence. And so instead of using again bodies in the sky or constellations, we're using that. So that's how human design and astrology mix together. And I was never really into astrology as much. Not that I think it was fake. It was just like I just wasn't that into it because when I found human design, I was like, oh, this is some cool stuff. Anyway, we're My FYP is on point today. Waiting for invitation is hard for me. Yeah. So again, it's like, one of the things I want to say as well is like human design is not about like reading your chart and resonating with it and being like, oh my God, like that's me. It's not really about that. And that doesn't matter. Like there's plenty of people who do that and they're like, that's definitely not me. I don't like that. Or that's really hard for me. And then they start implementing it and practicing with it. And then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, this actually works so much better for me. Because there's a difference between what you've naturalized or what you've normalized and what's actually natural for you. Right? Determination is calm touch. Sorry is squished or merged or hard to read on the phone. Oh, right. Um, so calm touch is literally like touch your food, and the more calm the environment is, the better. That's your digestion. If you had only one advice to give to a generator, what would it be? It would be um to sing more and dance more. Gives me good direction to start though. Definitely. And that's the thing again, is like you just have to start with, hey, just start waiting more, you know? Just start raising the standards of invitations in your life a little bit. You don't want to like completely destroy your life. Maybe you do. I don't know. The difference between you a year from now living your dream life and you a year from now like living the same life is this. It's not some big thing. It's just like a little tiny change, a little tiny shift. Is it true that compatibility between partners is best if there is one center left open between two? I have it. I have one of those relationships. I have an 8-in-1 relationship. It's awesome. It's the best relationship I've ever been in. Um, Again, the nuances of a relationship are very nuanced, very specific. So it'd be hard to say, but generally, if you have like a 7-and-2 or an 8-and-1, those are usually very strong bonds. Advice for reflectors. Jake, are you a reflector? Awesome. If you guys like reflectors, tap the screen. Um, so advice for reflectors. Biggest thing is for me as a reflector is like my non-negotiables is I need to be able to sleep alone, right? I need at least like, and this is kind of hard with a baby, but I need at least like 10 minutes by myself in the morning just to kind of like reset and wake up. Same thing, at least 10-15 minutes before I go to sleep by myself. Um, so sleep is very, very important. Second thing is like journaling and just like I'm constantly just like taking notes that I'm never reading again. And journaling and reflecting is super important, which can sometimes be done in meditation, but when I'm typing or when I'm writing, great time to do that. Third thing is tracking my lunar cycle. So understanding, number one, what is when you were born, what gate was the moon in? Because that's the start of your lunar cycle. For me, it was 48. And just knowing where we're at in the procession of that, which if you use this app Neutrino Design makes it really freaking easy to track your lunar cycles as a reflector. Those are my main things. Also I would definitely recommend as a reflector refining your sensory mechanics, so doing like eye exercises, neck widening exercises, mewing, jaw stuff, like for humans in general, but definitely reflectors, because one of the things that reflectors encounter a lot is like being in environments that they don't want to like be open in, or they don't want to absorb the energies of that environment. And so what you have to be able to do is not only tolerate the environment, but also be able to like actually like close up and kind of like defend your body and your aura, and the sensory mechanics helps with that big time. What is the left angle cross of identification? Should we look that one up? I don't actually know that one off the top of my head. Now I will have you know, all of the incarnation crosses are in this book, which is a great book. Um, Here, I'll put it up for anyone who wants to take a screenshot. If you want to take a screenshot of that book, that's a great book. It's probably reversed. Dude, we're on 15K. Let's go. Let's double it. If we can double it, that would be great. You got that book because of the live. Awesome. Awesome. But anyway, identification. It'll be hard for me to find it in here, and I definitely don't want to just like be reading people's incarnation crosses to them. But really, what we can do is, and actually, yeah, I don't want to do that. But you can look it up online. It's actually super easy. Or you could get one of my reports that has an explanation of your incarnation cross in my report, or it's a neutrino design as well. But the cool thing about the X incarnation cross, we'll just talk about them more like high level. It's your personality, sun and earth, and your design, sun and earth as a cross. So if you can see with this mandala, right? This is like our calendar. And again, here are the constellations from the zodiac, which don't have really any correlation. They're just there as reference because astrology existed before the Rave mandala. But essentially, if the sun is here when you were born, the earth is going to be here, right across. 88 days before you were born, which is where your design calculations come from, the sun is going to be over here and the earth is going to be over here. That creates a cross. That cross, your personality, sun and earth, design sun and earth, is going to be essentially like what your how you say purpose in this life is. Like this, it's the purpose of your incarnation. Now the beautiful thing about this is that they're very like fortune cookie. They're very like vague and open-ended. Like, what we got one. I think they're pretty vague and open-ended, which is a benefit because it's not like a destiny, like you have to do this thing, but it's like, like people whose knowing has a revolutionary quality about it, in the root of understanding begins with efficiently and logically explaining one's revolutionary insight. The idea is that, like, you just follow your strategy and authority and you will fulfill your purpose. That's the idea of it. As a reflector, you're teaching me so much about boundaries, or even how you deflected that cross reading. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to do that. Oh, YouTube. I totally forgot about you guys. Um, what's up, y'all? Are there any gates in your lunar cycle that aren't pleasant? So that's a cool question. I have yet to find anything that's like consistently, this is a bad lunar gate for me. And maybe it's because I don't track it like that rigorously. I have notifications from my app that let me know when the gate of the moon does shift. But again, I don't always have my phone, and it changes like 3 times a day. So yeah. Can guilt motivation block sacral authority? N- Interesting question. I think guilt in general can block. Guilt is like a fuel for me. For anyone with guilt motivation or the guilt hope motivation, really important because, and again, I'm not like I know everything about the guilt motivation, but what I've learned is that when I feel guilty about things, I'm actually able to use that as motivation, right? So if I feel guilty, like for instance, if you feel guilty that your sacral is blocked, well, use that as motivation. Go take a singing class, go take a dancing class, go do something where you can, unblock that blockage, because I don't want to say it's not necessarily from the guilt itself. It's more so from turning away from the guilt is what I would envision happening for a sacral being. I'm not sacral as well, but the guilt sometimes can totally block creativity. But that's when I realized, like, oh, I could just be creative about my guilt. What do I feel guilty about? Sing about that, dance around that, right? I was wondering why you've used the complete Rave I Ching book. If you opinions, if you have, I have not used the complete Rave I Ching book. I have it. I haven't really like read it. I have a lot of the books and stuff like that. Or I don't have it. I have access to people who have the files. Um, yeah. I feel like I'm entering a whole new thing with a whole new system, and 98% I don't know right now. It's a great time. Like you're only exposed. I love anime and I love video games. A lot of people don't know that. One of the things that I heard one of the like the pro streamers talking about is there's this game Elden Ring, and Elden Ring was one of those games where like everyone loved it so much and everyone wanted to be really good at it, and then there's all these tutorials online about it. And he was talking about how you only get to play through a game one time for the first time. And if you're the type of person that wants to like know where every secret is and get everything, like once you know, you're gonna know everything. And it's beautiful. And I don't think I'm explaining it right, but like when you're learning about human design for the first time and you're how you say wishing that you knew everything, don't don't because you're only going to be able to learn those things for the first time once. And it's kind of like watching a movie and the movie's just started and you're already like, oh, I want to be able to talk about it with my friends. This is one of the biggest lessons that human design actually has for us is to, hey, be patient and be present and know where you're at. Because if you know where you're at, you can move more efficiently in the direction that you actually want to go. I thought about coding a video game about human design. Can you do that? Because I want to do that. By can you do that, I'm asking a technical question about your actual skill because if that's true, I've always wanted to work on a human design game. Do I notice my disappointment ever, Marco, or feel pretty in flow with surprise moments? So, okay, I'll talk about disappointment as a reflector, because it definitely happens. Most of the times, my disappointment is inspired by other people. Like, one of my friends will do something or not do something, and I'm disappointed. I'm like, why didn't they do that thing? Um, a lot of the times, it has to do with like my projections on what they should be doing. Um, but a lot of the times it really comes from, for me, it comes from like confusing other people's well-being with my well-being. And part of my view is power. So like noticing when like my friends are winning or noticing when like my friends are quote unquote losing. It's natural for me to get very involved with that. And then that will sometimes echo in my life. And the biggest disappointment, I'll tell you right here, the biggest disappointment is when my friends are winning and I'm not actually winning, but it feels like I'm winning. Does that make sense? Like my friends are getting W's, my friends are doing things, and I feel like I'm winning, but I'm not actually doing anything and not actually winning. There's times like that. I'll have days where I'm like not actually like doing anything, quote unquote, like productive. And yeah, so that's been really helpful for me. And the way that I quell it oftentimes is, as a reflector, I'll reflect on it for 28 days. Basically, I'll just like let it stew. And then after a month or so, I'm usually don't have any more like energetic or emotional charge around it. And then I'll just like go tell the person, like, while they're reaching in the fridge, like, hey, remember that one time I told you to do this thing and you didn't do that? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, I was upset about that last month. And they're like, oh, okay. You want to talk about it? And it's like, not really. I just want you to know, like, when I see things and I tell you about them and you don't listen, y- I get upset and it makes me not want to not be your friend. I've had that conversation with quite a few people. Um, and since then, their listening has gotten better. And also, my like projections on them have gotten less. So, anyway, what do we got going on here? So, if someone wants to know what a 9 and 0 relationship would be like. Right. So, if you have a 9 and 0, so in human design, you have these things called composites, which is if I were to take two body graphs and glue them on top of each other, certain things would plug in, certain gates would connect with other gates, and certain centers would become defined. 9 and 0 is when you have all of these centers defined. And so when all the centers are defined, it makes one of these relationships where it's like, you're glued together at the hip, or you feel so complete in the relationship that there's not a lot of room for anyone else. Um, 9 and 0 feels so comfortable around the person, has a hard time saying goodbye. Exactly. Breaking that 9 and 0, that feeling of completeness feels wrong in some kind of way. And it's like, 9 and 0, the rhyme is like 9 and 0, nowhere to go. Because it's like you don't need to go anywhere else. There's everything is already there for you. Wow, I never thought to call people in my circle out about not being perceived or heard. Thanks. Yeah. And so I would be again, like I said, for me, I let the emotional charge dissipate first, right? Because really what I'm doing is I'm considering during that time, is this not listening to me enough for me to disqualify this person from my life? Right? Like if this person doesn't listen to me and they choose to continue to not listen to me, do I not want them in my life? And usually when it's like severe like that, that's when I'll tell them, but I'll let the emotional charge evaporate first because that's very important. If you do it within the emotional wave of it sucks. It doesn't go well. It might be necessary though, because sometimes emotional explosive energy is necessary. But unless you have like a third party person to like help move that along, like if it's just you and the person trying to figure it out, it just becomes this hall of mirrors bullshit and it's annoying. Um, yeah. Is it bad as a 6'2" if a 9-0 relationship sounds gross? Not necessarily. That's funny though. Because the thing about 9-0 is like if you know you're 9-0, then you're aware that there's extra inertia to move through when it comes to stepping away from each other. Doesn't mean you can't still step away from each other. What does sacral authority mean? So sacral authority is like the Emotional authority is the only thing that trumps sacral authority. So as a sacral authority, the idea is that for beings with sacral authority, unless the emotional wave is like super intense, generally your sacral will always have a point of authority. Like just do what your sacral says you should do. If you have the emotional authority or you're in an emotional wave, which even if you don't have emotional authority, you can still be in emotional waves. But when you're in the emotional wave, don't make decisions. Don't listen to what your sacral is telling you. When you're emotional, your sacral will tell you like cheat on your girlfriend. Your sacral will tell you all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's but that's not your sacral. That's your solar plexus. And oftentimes when people suppress their emotions, that will the sacral or the emotional turmoil will start to infect the mind and infect the sacral and stuff. D, so the 9-0 comes from composites. So if you have your body graph and you have somebody else's body graph and you put them together and all of these centers are colored in, that's 9-0. Oh, thanks, Jenny. Yeah, if you guys are finding this information valuable, something you can do that's not going to cost you anything is just tap the screen. Sharing this with your friends also is super helpful. But if this number goes up higher, we're at 16K right now. If this number goes up higher, then TikTok will show the live to more people and more people will learn about this stuff. 6'3". So 6'3" profile is and I'm not going to talk too much about profiles, so if you have questions um that are more specific, feel free to bring them through. But 6'3" profile is essentially it's like evolved role model, right? Like you spend the first 30 of your years of your life making a bunch of mistakes, then the next 20 or so years like stepping back, reflecting on those mistakes, and then finally 50s or 60s you can actually be a role model. So I would say for a 6'3" profile, number one, get really good at forgiving yourself. Number two, don't try and be the role model too early, especially if you're under 30. Embrace making mistakes, aka step one, forgive yourself. And then number three is like there's going to come a time in your life when you're going to be able to make sense of all of it. Don't try and make sense of it all right now, right? Especially from the mind. What you really ought to be focusing on is consolidating your core moves, which is your strategy and your authority. Gotcha. Yeah. But wait, people with emotional authority are supposed to listen to their solar plexus and cheat on their girlfriend? No, no, no. When your solar, okay, thank you for that. When your solar plexus is moving through a wave, there's no truth in what your solar plexus is feeling. Like you could have a loving partner and let's say you're moving through an emotional wave because your partner didn't compliment your your dress or your food or the date that you took them on, and you're feeling emotional about that. In that emotional wave, your gut might be like, oh, let's cheat on them, they don't love us, or your mind might be like, we hate them, they're the worst. That none of that is true. The truth of it, which you have to go through all that not true stuff, I call it the churn. When the churn is happening, you don't make decisions, you don't do things when the churn is happening other than pay attention to what's happening in the churn and allow that stuff to come out, just not on the people you love, right? Like if you're pissed off at your partner about something, write them a very angry letter. Tell them you'll leave them. Tell them you'll sleep with their best friend. But don't let them ever see any of that shit. And what I mean by that is not keep it a secret, but if it's not real, don't give them something else to worry about. Does that make sense? So how do you know when you're in the emotional churn? So a lot of people, I feel the churn of others in my open SP. Definitely, you just made me lol. I've learned to not learned to not listen to that burn down the voice, but I put it in my art. Exactly, right? That burn it all down voice. You don't make decisions with that. That's the emotional wave. When you go through that, when you allow yourself though to, you know, in a controlled environment, like destroy a pillow or cry your eyes off because you feel like you're the ugliest person in the world and that no one could want to be with you. Instead of trying to soothe yourself or like make yourself feel better, let yourself go to the end of the churn. Um, because when you do that, then that's what called is called catharsis. Then there's like the oh shit, I realize this now. That's when the truth will emerge. So the churn is like anytime that what I like to consider is that we have what's called like an emotional tolerance, right? Like I could be a little bit angry because I'm watching a show, or I could be so angry because I'm watching a show that now I'm being mean to my family, right? Emotional waves, there's no general time limit of them. Like emotional waves can last like 2 to 3 minutes again because you saw something on a TV show, or they can last 4 to 5 years because you're constantly suppressing, some kind of like emotional or some memory or some trauma. The idea is that we're not healing ourselves when we're in the churn. The idea is that we're just being present for the churn. So, some things that you may notice, um, increase or fluctuation in temperatures, sweaty hands or feet, sweat in general, again, change in temperatures. You might notice like an extra nervousness or an extra anxiety, like if your mind is extra on it, like you're trying to really solve problems. One of the bigger things, though, is if you're in this conversation around like worth or like not being valuable or any of that kind of stuff, that's usually like some emotional turmoil. And again, it's usually as a result of not actually confronting um, the truth about things, which again, in order to get to the truth, you have to go through the churn, right? Um, Without going through the churn, you never get to the actual truth of it. Even if you cognitively know it, your body will not believe it until you actually somatically. Because what's happening with the churn and with the emotional wave is like it's water that wants to get out of your body. It's water that's holding on to a story that wants to get out of your body. And if you stop the tears or you stop the sweat or you stop the spitting and cursing, the water cannot get out of your body and it will stay in there and it will emerge again when something on in the external world or something internally is activated. Any thoughts or advice to share about the undefined G center? So this is a defined G center, right? Colored in centers are defined. Um, Undefined G centers, myself included, these are people who are we are using how you say we are using masks consciously, right? Like when I get on TikTok, like this is a mask. This isn't the person that my partner gets, right? I'm not number one, I'm not constantly talking about human design, but I'm also not tuned into this interaction the same way that I tune into my interaction with my partner. I'm not measuring the metrics of my relationship by the same that I'm measuring the metrics of TikTok, right? And so masks are not bad unless you realize, oh, I didn't realize I was wearing a mask. That's when masks are quote unquote bad, right? So, what you're looking at with an undefined G center is really like the ability to take masks on and off, use other people's measuring sticks, but not get attached to one. When you have a defined G center, it's really like this mask, this is me, I'm taking me everywhere. Right. And so with the undefined G center, the ability to put masks on and take masks off, one of the things you got to be really mindful of is are you putting on the mask of somebody that you're close to, but maybe the mask doesn't do good stuff for you? Like it's not healthy for you. Anyway, yes, I've been working hard at unmasking and staying true to myself in more situations than before. So again, invitation to explore especially, and this is maybe this is different for reflectors, but you know, one of the things that I've done is I've really like kind of like given up the pursuit of trying to like find myself or figure out who I am. It doesn't mean I'm not interested in learning about who I am and the things that are consistent, but I've given up the hunt as though like I will find something that will forever feel like, yes, that's me. Human design is the closest thing that it's gotten to. But, even like the body graph itself, I'm like, yeah, I'm a lot more than that. And so, anyway, so unmasking is great. Um, and then noticing the pressure to put on another mask to have an identity. So anyway, someone was asking a great question. Where can I go to get more Source HD versus Pop HD? Well, there's a ton of Pop HD on TikTok. Um, I definitely stick to my source material um, when I'm sharing things. My sort of Pop HD is more like, yeah, I'm super tired of Pop HD too. Um, it's really like, how do we ground human design into physical stuff like breathing exercises or movements or stuff like that. If you want like Source HD, the best place to go to is the source, Jovian Archive. Their stuff, Ra and Linda, those guys, they are the source of human design. Now, does that mean they're the best? Personally, I don't think so. Like, if you put me up against like, if you hire me as a coach and anyone, any of the analysts that have been trained by the Jovian Archive, I would bet money on myself. That's just how, because I don't think that knowing more information about human design makes you a better coach, in my opinion. Is there anything in human design about impulsivity, Candace? Sorry, YouTube. I'm not as good at. I need like one chat. Um, which maybe someone can help me out with that. But is there anything in human design about impulsivity? Totally, totally. But again, it's impulsivity. In terms of gates, like if you have the 15, that's a relatively impulsive gate. A lot of the emotional gates in here can be pretty impulsive. What else is impulsive? Tribal circuitry can be impulsive because it's like, hey, we need this now. But again, it's like asking about that is an entry point question, because for me, what I would ask is like, well, what are you impulsive about? What kind of impulsive decisions do you make? And then through that, we can figure out kind of like on a map, we can drop into your life and be like, well, where does this actually show up? And how do we actually tend to it in the way that we can? So more information can lead more to more defined boxes that we live in. Poor YouTube. Yeah, I know. But anyway, yeah, pop HD is just like, I view pop HD as like people that have been studying human design for 6 months, and now they're offering sessions and thinking that they're an authority in human design. Like, I've been in my spiritual awakening for 14 freaking years, and just 2 years ago I started like coaching people. That's my method. Maybe just because I'm a reflector, but I didn't want to put stuff out there that I hadn't tested thoroughly, especially because I'm a 3-5. But now that it is out there, I'm helping a lot of people. So I'm stoked about it. And I'm like, wow, I could have done this a couple years ago, because a lot of the stuff that I share with people, to me, is stuff that I learned 10 years ago. More basics, but I've actually had the opportunity to see it work. And so, Pop HD, the difference between Pop HD and Source HD, to me, is just experience. Thoughts on a projector with only head and ajna and throat. Boom, boom, boom. So that's mental projector. So that type of projector, like, you really, similar to a reflector, like, you really need good people around you. You really need people that will be honest with you. Ideally, if you can have a solid reflector in your life, great. Because with the mental authority, like, this is the center of authority, and this is an external authority. The ajna tells you about what's going on in the external world. That's when you try to think about your emotions or think about your health, you're much better off abandoning the mind and tuning into it from a somatic point of view, or tuning into it from an emotional point of view, right? So with a mental projector, super important to like take care of your close homies and recognize what they do for you, because without somebody to soundboard with, um, yeah, it's going to be very lonely. Hi, Nabby. How are you? Candace, you're here. I'm happy you heard that on Candace on YouTube. So does mental authority when those two centers are clear? So mental authority is when you have either is when you only have the ajna in the throat or the head and the ajna. Like basically everything below the neck is undefined. I may be biased, but I think everyone could use a solid reflector in their life. Leb, you cheers, my friend. I'm doing my best to like be a reflector for hire, I think is what I realize I'm doing. Um like if you want to hire me as your reflector, um yeah, I can do that. How do reflectors interact with each other? So this is great. Anytime I'm with a reflector, it's and no offense to the other types. I love being with reflectors. I love being with reflectors so much because there's a thing that we can never talk about, even when we're with each other as reflectors, that only the reflector knows we can't talk about this. Every other type is like, what's it like to be a reflector? And when I see other reflectors and I'm with other reflectors, I'm like, you're fucking crazy. You're crazy too. You feel all that? Oh yeah, me too. A lot of the times when I'm with other reflectors, I will just kind of like either like attach to them and we'll like go on a little journey, or we like watch each other from the other side of the room a bunch. But one of the things that's really fun is when I do end up like loving up, like having the compatibility with another reflector that I really enjoy, we'll like just sit and people watch, and it's like it's the most entertaining thing ever. I've never met a reflector. They're so rare. Right. Yeah, it's 1%. 1%. And it's funny too, as a reflector, when we're people watching, it's really interesting to watch the reflector people watch. Like, because I'm watching sometimes I'll like look out of the corner of my eye, my peripheral vision is real good. So I can like look over here, but see right here. And I'll be looking and I'll watch the one of my, and I remember this happened. We were hiking Haleakala, and I was with a really cool new projector friend or reflector friend, and he just goes like this, and I caught it, and I was like, "What is that?" And I looked up, and there was like geese. Basically, there's this geese on Hawaii called the nene, and the nene there was just nene, and I was like, "Oh." And it was funny because I was watching him, and he was watching me mine. But anyway, it's simple things with the reflectors, like the pacing, and it's fun too to watch myself as a reflector, like the way that I sometimes show up as like a manifester or a generator or a projector when I'm with a reflector is really interesting to watch. So anyway, oh, thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the gifts, guys. Appreciate this. My human design projector. Wow, I just did mine and I'm a generator who thought I was a projector. Yeah. Be mindful of the generators that you use, guys. My generator uses 24-hour time. So if you're born at like 2 p.m., the chart entry that you have to put in is 14, and it should say 2 p.m. in there as well. But if you, Jess Mama, if you want to get your design, just go to my website, reikimarco.com, plug in your birth information, and it'll pop you out one of these things. For anyone again that is interested in like working with me, I do one-on-one sessions. The link for that is via reikimarco.com. Link is also in my bio. I have reports that are super affordable. I have a $20 report that will just decode all this for you. And then I have a $35 report that is like a, Hitchhiker's Guide to Human Design kind of thing. And also these are some practices. 35 bucks. It gives you the analysis as well as like my philosophy on human design and the techniques that I use to embody human design. And then also there's this app. None of it is through my body graph. I actually don't really like my body graph. They have solid information. Their information is solid. I like the underground, like underdog system, which is neutrino design. So for any, she goes, thank God. Wait, why, Jen? Why do you not like my body graph? I know why I don't like it, but why do you not? It being around non-generator beings is calming. True. Generally, I know some generator beings that are some of the most calming people to be around. Um, but usually, yeah, non-sacral beings are more calming to be around because there's not this creative energy. There's not as much energy that's like has potential or has a design for movement. Neutrino design is objectively the best indeed. Ever use bodygraph .io? No, but I'll check that out. I'm always interested in all this stuff. Like I looked when I found neutrino design, I was just like the aesthetic of it. I was like, holy crap, this is definitely the best. Bodygraph IO. So let's see, what system are you guys using? Oh, they made their own system, huh? Well, this looks cool. How do they do their support? Interesting. Well, we'll have to look at more of their stuff. Um, huh. You can't save charts on it. It's just a one-off. Interesting. Well, again, it's like, we're for me, I am always looking for like the best software. Now, to me, the best software is one that I can directly influence, which is Neutrino Design. I have a really good relationship with the what's it called? I just read Riley. She goes, "I have a Chat GTP update for you. It's fun to play with when I already know the answers." Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, but anyway, the developer, that's hilarious. 'Cause it's wrong. It's wrong as fuck sometimes. Sometimes Chat GTP will just give the most wrong answers. Hi Marco, what do you think of cosmic human design? It's not a good system. So there's a difference. You can't just apply sidereal modifications to the current system of human design because the whole system of human design is it already has sidereal modifications in it. So cosmic human design was basically a guy who thought that um, Ra forgot about sidereal astrology when he didn't, and then he modified the body graphs to be more adherent to like sidereal astrology, which human design and astrology, like human design doesn't even use constellations or houses. So it's not a good system. It's broke. I personally now, after knowing what I know, I think that that system is very misleading. Um, in the sense that not that the body graphs are wrong, although they are, but this like and it's hard to explain because um you have to know a lot about like astrology and stuff, and there's just a lot of things about sidereal, like they call it true sidereal and Vedic, like that they think is more accurate, but it's like not actually accurate. And I'm still, and I had to learn about this because naturally I'm like in this field and I wanted to learn about it. HD doesn't disregard Vedic or sidereal. So basically, what we use in human design is we use tropical astrology to calculate the personal body graphs because we are only alive for like 100 years. Sidereal modifications on a human design body graph would be relevant for somebody that lived for 26,000 years, but not for somebody with a 100-year lifespan. That's basically the way I say it. The app Stella is, in my opinion, garbage. Um, Pretty much every app that I've used for human design, aside from neutrino design, when compared to neutrino design, is absolute garbage. And I'm pretty objective because if I liked any of those other apps more than Neutrino Design, I would have gone and tried to partner with them rather than coming to partner with Neutrino. What books would you represent? This is the only book that I've like really connected with, and it's brilliant. And in terms of that question, Jen, can you use your branding through Neutrino? My reports have my branding on them, which the is kind of like the web version of Neutrino is still like in development. And but eventually, if I can convince the developer that there's enough people that want to like generate reports using Neutrino and all that, because Neutrino design is what generates my reports. Um, and yeah, so D just signed up for the free trial, and damn, it's pretty good, right? It's plenty good of a system, I say. It's plenty good. And that would be awesome. Yeah. So, like right now, the functionality is there. It's just a matter of figuring out a way for, again, tech stuff. Tech stuff. So, what does it mean if you don't have penta qualities? So, this person has two penta channels. Penta channels are the gates between the throat, the G, and the sacral. This is a business. These six channels is a business. You need 3 to 5 people across the board who collectively have all six of these channels, and you'll have a successful business, or at least your business will do the thing that it's set out to do. If you don't have any of those channels, doesn't mean you're shitty at business or you can never run a business. It just means that the thing that you're going to be able to consistently, um, the thing that you can consistently bring to a business is not going to be quantifiable in business terms. So again, if you don't have penta qualities, um, what that says to me is that you would either serve better in like a partnership or being a solo entrepreneur or being the alpha, being the leader of a penta. But like so like this person has a handful of penta quality. They've got some pretty solid channels up here. This person, I personally wouldn't be on a penta with them just because I know this person and I love this person, but I would put them in a penta with someone else and watch the magic happen. I have wah qualities though. Where are you finding the wah qualities? Is that in Neutrino? Because that's like alpha talk right there. My only penta quality is gate 29 saying yes. That's funny. Gate 29 right there. The abysmal. That's a really interesting one. Um, I've always thought the abysmal is really interesting because this channel right here is the deep of the deep, saying yes and then determination of the self, right? Being on the sort of like abstract side, this is like the emotional side of the body graph, right? The ability sometimes to, or the phenomenon of like not knowing what this is going to bring you, but knowing that you have to take the journey. I love that. So mysterious. As opposed to this one, which is like balancing risk and opportunity and making sure that your mundane rituals are strong enough to support all the extremes, etc. In the past, I said yes way more than I was meant to. Definitely that. So, where would a reflector best fit in a business organization? Honestly, the best, and this might be one of my businesses, but like consultation for a reflector, HR consultation, high level overview, um, being able to like reflect the quality of the workspace. Like as a reflector, one of the coolest things that you ought to be able to do, and by you ought to be able to do would be like if you're take care of yourself, you should be this will naturally happen for you to go into a workspace, the physical workspace where people work, and be able to say things like that person over there needs more space, this person over here needs more direction, like being able to point out kind of like a feng shui or an interior designer, being able to say like, yeah, this is working well, that's not working well. Projectors are great in like management, also in a similar like guiding role, but more so along the lines of like optimizing systems and efficiency. Like projectors will tell you how it's going, or reflectors will tell you how it's going. Projectors will tell you where it's going. If that makes sense. I have six pentaqualities. Yes, that could be that. That is quite a lot. So, for instance, if you have six pentaqualities, one of the things that you might look for in business partners is people that complete or fill in the gaps that you don't have, right? And if you can get three people that have all of these gaps filled in, whatever you do, it's going to work. And if it doesn't, tell me because I want to know. Yeah, because business, like, and the penta, Jen, thank you for all. Like, she's like, I got so many penta qualities. I'm gonna send Marco some gifts. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Janet. Appreciate you. 20 lightning bolts and 13 roses. Love it. So yeah, you can put yourself in. And one of the things too I found with neutrino that's kind of helpful is like if you want to look at like the composite of you and your friend and you and your friend's brother and you and your friend's brother's girlfriend, if you put all of you guys in a penta together and then you just disable charts until there's only two charts, it'll show you the composite. So that way you don't have to create a bunch of composites. You can just create like a big penta and then disable the chart view. Anyway, I don't have none, girl. So channel 1-8 and channel, what'd you say? 1949 together, like in the same body graph. Is that what you mean? That's the channel of revolution. It's the pressure to make sure everyone has what they need and then start a fire if people don't have what they need. One is the um knowing like, oh, I have creative energy right now or I don't. 8 is like, oh, my creative energy or my product or my creative thing is it fits here or it doesn't fit here. Yeah, great tip for using the apps. You can store hella charts in Neutrino. Yes. I've been looking to fill a penta for a shared goal for too long. 2 weeks ago about pentas. Oh yeah, like that's the thing too is it makes it harder to find people to work with because sometimes when you are looking to fill a penta, you have people that would fit the job really well, but they don't fill the penta really well. And then there's always that thing in the back of your head like, shit, this person does the job, but they're not filling the penta. And if they're not filling the penta, they're taking up space that someone could fill the penta. So it's kind of challenging. The way you count penta gates, like this person has four. One, two, three, four. All the gates in the throat that connect to the G, that connect to the sacral. All these six channels are the penta channels. And so, in terms of business, again, when you have 3 to 5 people, um, and all of these channels are filled in, that's what's called a functional penta. Doesn't mean it's going to be healthy. Doesn't mean it's going to be successful. It means it's going to be functional. It means that when they get together and they say they're going to do something, the thing happens, right? Which again, if you spell it right or you factor it out right, that should be make money or like something worth having. So anyway, yeah, it's a great app. All right, guys. Well, it's getting close to that time, 10:20. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of time to decompress. I got multiple sessions today. So thank you guys so much. Oh, Anthony, you just had to come in and get me all riled up. So this is also complicated. Why let a diagram dreamed up by one guy affect so much of your life? Well, because it affects us in a good way. That's all I'll say about that. Thanks for tuning in. If it's confusing to you, it's probably just because you haven't spent the last 8 years studying it like I have and incorporated it into your life in a way that is healthy and benefits everybody else around you. So I would encourage you to look at some of the skills that you do with ease and consider how long it took for you to cultivate and develop them. And that's all I'll say to that. Anyway, much love to you guys. Tuning in with you probably like next week. Next week is going to be our fourth week of going live, and so we'll see if we keep the same schedule or we might shift it up a little bit. We'll see. So far, things have been good. And yeah, just riding my lunar wave out of it. So far, the lives have been so great. Katya, I saw you up here at some point. You've been on like the entire time. Thank you. Bless you. But yeah, blessings for everyone. Love for everyone. Um, what do I want to say? Oh, if you're not following, make sure you follow. If you need a report or anything, get a report on my website. If you want to do a one-on-one, schedule it up. Download the app, 25% off via the link in my bio. Let's see what else. Be kind to yourself. Make sure you don't forget to lay down a handful of times today, because laying down is really helpful. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. All right, YouTube. We're definitely gonna get better at this. Because I'm still trying to figure out. Like, I have, this is my whole setup right here, and yeah, we definitely will get better at this. But thank you guys for tuning in and participating. Sorry I didn't get to many of your questions. Um, Candice, Joanne, much love to y'all. Adrian, you've been around for a while. Joanne, thank you guys so much. Candice, oh, you're the best. Thank you so much. Yeah, just trying to get this message out to as many people as we can, so we can save lives, my friends. 'Cause I genuinely believe, like, this saves lives. Like, Reiki saved my life a long time ago, and human design, like, really just made it all that much better. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next Monday, Hawaii time, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. We'll see y'all then. Peace.